Good evening to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. It is the August Outlook day, so we'll get into that in just a second. But before we continue with the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. This is the current visible satellite imagery across Europe through the course of this afternoon. You can see here a nice little curl over Denmark with a fairly thick band of cloud cover extending from Norway to the west of Germany, or Denmark, should I say, and into the north of Germany, providing wind and heavy rainfall and cooler temperatures as well. This is driving some fresher air around the backside of this little curl of cloud associated with low pressure. We do have a system moving towards the UK and Ireland as well. Where you've got the sunshine, it is warm out there. Actually, we're seeing temperatures into the low to mid-20s. Fairly widely across the UK. If we look at the temperatures currently, this is for Europe. You can see here some of the extreme heat now moving into Finland and Western Russia. We're freshening things up finally across parts of Norway and Sweden. There's those cooler temperatures associated with that system over Denmark. And you can see here on the back side of the system as higher pressure noses in ahead of the next feature. We've got a bump in the temperatures, and with some sunshine, not too bad out there. Temperatures edging towards the upper 30s, around 40 degrees across Iberia. So specifically looking at the UK and Ireland here at the moment, we've got low 20s quite widely across central and eastern Scotland and down through England and Wales, something fresher in the northwest of England and Wales. And also we're seeing temperatures, again, 22, 23, 24 Celsius across the bulk of central and southern England. Ireland, upper teens to low 20s is the story. Looking at the latest radar imagery, then you can see the heavy rainfall associated with that system over Central Europe. Not so much across the UK and Ireland, a couple of speckles here and there, but generally high and dry. But that may be a different story come tomorrow. We do have a Met Office yellow warning for thunderstorms as of 10 a.m. through 2100 tomorrow for southern portions of England. We've got this next system moving in with the help of some sunshine, humid air, and somewhat of a northwesterly flow. We've got the conditions coming together for some lively downpours. That's if the Met Office are concerned for potential disruptive torrential rainfall, 60 millimeters of rainfall within a short period of time, frequent lightning and hail possible with that. So that is that. We do have a couple of other features running in through the course of the weekend, a bit of a split in conditions both Saturday and Sunday, and then we're keeping an eye closely on a feature that both the ECM and the GFS are kind of bouncing between each other with regards to strengthening and then weakening this feature come Monday, but more on that in tomorrow's video. So, fresh, hot off the press is the Europe August 2025 Outlook. You can check this out at your leisure on marfoganweather.com. It is completely free to read and look at, and let's get right to it then. So, July, we're pretty much coming to the end of the second month of meteorological summer. It really is hard to believe how quickly this year is going in. We're we're seeing a real dip in the hours of daylight now. It must be said, we're seeing a real change in the darkness in the evenings now. I'm sure everybody has noticed that. But to sum things up, like June, the month has been we've seen a little bit of everything essentially. Some notable heat, some cool and wet, and a bit of in between, but generally leaning more towards warm compared to cool across the UK and Ireland as a whole. In terms of rainfall, highly variable in terms of weather versus drier than average, especially when you throw in thunderstorms. Of course, the first half of the month, the first half of July, saw significant heat focus across Iberia up into the UK, including Scotland and Northern Ireland as well, before shifting north and east as Atlantic disturbances brought a cooling refreshing relief to parts of Iberia and France in particular. So first half of the month, we've seen building heat across Iberia, France, up into the UK, as well as Ireland. And then that was replaced by something fresher coming in off the Atlantic. But the heat then focused back up towards Norway, Sweden and Finland. It's been planked in place there for really a considerable amount of time, breaking a record for consecutive days above 30. 14 in Finland, 13 in Norway. And like I say, we've seen systems coming in off the Atlantic that has somewhat tempered that warmth. We've seen a little bit of fluctuation back and forth in terms of temperatures across the UK as well as Ireland, but closer to average, slightly above average still for the UK, perhaps a touch below average in parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. But this amount of 20-degree days has reached 20 today here at Vogan Weather HQ. That blows away my previous record of 15 set in June 2023. Obviously, the period of record is only 3 years, so there's not an awful lot to go by. But 20 days above 20 here is pretty notable, I think, for this location. I believe this slight shift in terms of heat transfer north and east over Europe, bringing record-breaking warmth to parts like Greece and Turkey. We've seen the first 50 Celsius in Turkey, for example, on record. I think it's been due to an eastbound Kelvin wave associated with the Mann-Julian oscillation that's caused a split in the heat across Europe. You can see here the greens represent rising motion, the oranges represent sinking motion, has been progressing eastwards towards the Western Atlantic Basin. All is quiet in the tropical Atlantic at the moment, but that may change as we head into the month of August. The hottest air of the year reinforced over Scandinavia and east through Italy, into Greece and into Turkey. So over the last 10 days, this is how the temperature profile has looked in terms of the anomaly. Obviously, the standout is Norway, Sweden and Finland. The cool has stood out across France and Iberia, warmer than average across the bulk of the UK and Ireland, with the exceptions of perhaps Wales and Eastern England, which is quite interesting, but I think over Scotland in particular. Warm nights, warm days this month will go down as a pretty warm July. The previous 10 days to that looked like this here. So yes, still warm across Northern Europe, but look at the cool over Central Europe, very warm, especially Northern Iberia up through France and all of the UK here. So this is the period between the 8th and the 18th of July. This is the most recent 10-day period, which is the 18th through the 28th of July here. So you can see the differences between the first 10 days versus the previous. We've witnessed spells of thundery rains and longer system rains, which will lean July overall average, perhaps above average in terms of rainfall. And in the near continent as well, France and the Low Countries, with local variability, as is often the case during the summertime. Also, like June, July will go down as a warm month widely. Warm nights will help boost the monthly average. So this is the temperature anomalies across Europe through the 30th of July here, so which is obviously today. And around about average for parts of East Germany into Poland, into the northern Alpine region. Cooler than average actually across Switzerland and Austria, into the north of Italy. Generally warmer than average. Iberia up into France with an average in the southeast. UK and Ireland will be firmly warmer than average for the month. Then eastern areas of the continent warmer than average as well. This is how the precipitation has looked like in terms of the anomaly here. And like I say, very highly varied. We've got drier than average, we've got wetter than average, up and down the length and breadth of the UK. Generally wetter than average across Ireland and Northern Ireland, if you notice here. Central areas of Europe with systems running in to the central regions of Europe here has delivered some fairly substantial wet conditions. That has helped with drought conditions across parts of the Germany, Low Countries region in particular. Still got quite dry conditions across the south of the UK, not so much across the north. So cooler, unsettled end of July, beginning of August. While the heat has been extreme over Italy, Greece and Turkey, as well as Scandinavia, like I say, a record 14 straight 30s in Finland, 13 for Norway. The heat edges off the extreme for both regions as unusually cool air expands over central areas of Europe. Remember, the high position to the west of Ireland, trough to the east, has been allowing systems to come over the top of the high and then reinforcing that cool pool over Central Europe. Fortunately, storms and big rains have came as a negative consequence of that cool down due to the combination of factors, including the MJO, sharpening thermal gradient and strengthening the Atlantic jet. Early August, so around the 4th of May, Monday the 4th of July, August. I'll try again. Monday the 4th of August, I promise I'm not drunk, could host the passage of an unusually deep low pressure system with a spell of heavy rainfall, gales for the UK and Ireland. Depth, position and whether it even materialises is all open question at the moment here, but the models are going back and forward between driving this deep system in a deepening state, moving across the northern UK as the system enters the right entrance region and exits the left exit region of the jet. It all depends on the fine dynamics at play, whether this actually materialises or not. But certainly the models are back and forth in terms of a deep low crossing the northern UK or somewhere over the UK early next week. And this may contain some damaging winds, especially with trees in full leaf. So, moving on into the month of August, the final month of meteorological summer. In the broader view, there is two upper ridges dominating the close of July and the open of August. One centred to the west of Ireland, another east of Finland, with systems running in between helping reinforce the cool pool. So this is the upcoming 7-day period, folks. 20th of July through the 4th of August. You've got the ridges either side and a trough in between, systems running over the top of the UK. Hence why we've got sharp thunderstorm potential southern UK tomorrow. This energy running in across the top of the UK and deepening this trough over Central Europe. And as a consequence, we have got slightly cool, a give or take. I think sometimes this model is overdoing the cool, believe it or not. I didn't think I would say that with the CFSV2, but it's showing cool and average across the north. Generally average to warmer than average across central Scotland. South Ireland is the same, but very cool. And I think this isn't overdone actually, is the area of cooler encompassing the majority of France, Low Countries, Germany, Poland, right the way across the heart of Europe here. We've got a cool pool showing up, and that's indicative of the ridge to the west, trough to the east scenario. Wetter than average across the east, drier than average across the west. As we head deeper into the month of August, I'm strongly in the camp that pressure is going to build from the west across the top of the UK and Ireland and into Europe here. So pressure builds east from Atlantic across Europe mid to late month. The period between the 10th and the 20th of August, I think we're going to see the return of potential heat and dry weather. CFSV2 above shows the cool central and wet east as we step and progress from week 1 into week 2 of August here. I need to update that text, that's a little bit incorrect. The cool expands over the UK and Ireland courtesy of that ridge holding firm west of Ireland and the trough to the east. So you can see here week 2, day 8 through 14, you've got the ridge to the west, you've got the trough to the east, and it's strengthening from the west, I believe anyway. Again, systems clipping over the top of that could provide more unsettled conditions the further north you go. Into the temperature profile for the same period, 4th through the 11th of August, showing quite a cool signal across the UK as well as much of Ireland. Again, look at the cool over central areas of Europe here. So that's interesting, given the fact that we're approaching the middle of the month, and it's showing week 1 like this, and then week 2 like this here. So could we have a cooler more unsettled first half. Well, maybe not so much unsettled, but certainly a cooler first half to August. That's going to be the question. Week 3 and 4 builds the pressure eastwards off the Atlantic into Europe here. Week 1 through week 4 suggests a drier than average theme for Ireland and the UK as the ridge provides shelter from the Atlantic. Then Bodley builds in over the UK and Ireland, potentially much of the continent's central and southern regions here. So I do believe, folks, that we are going to see the ridge building week 2 into week 3 across Europe, and that could provide the return of something hotter. So this is the CFSV2 500s for week 3 and 4, because I've obviously shown you week 1 and 2 above. You can see here the pressure building, but again, that core centered just to the west of the UK and Ireland is quite interesting. And this is week 4. Precipitation anomaly, drier than average, wetter east, north. Week 4, 13th through the 20th, drier than average signal is very persistent, if you notice here. Then this is the following week, 20th through the 27th. You notice here that the CFSV2 is pretty firm on showing a dry signal for the month of August, which is interesting. Temperature anomaly wise, 13th through the 20th, warmer than average. And then the 20th through the 27th, warmer than average off the CFSV2. So I do expect this is important, one or more periods to exceed heatwave conditions for England and Wales, possibly Northern Ireland and Scotland, but I think there's a slightly lower possibility of that, given the potential proximity to the jet further north. There may be more unsettled conditions across more northern portions of the UK and Ireland, but I think the high is going to build more across England and Wales again, so I think there's going to be one or more periods of heatwave conditions. So obviously, you take the UK as a whole, 3 days above 25, but then get into the Midlands, it's 27, 28 Celsius. The further south and east you go for 3 straight days across more southern portions of the UK. So this would, if we do get heatwave conditions into the month of August, which I expect, this would complete the forecast expectation of heat waves in each of the 3 summer months of 2025. Further days above 30, particularly south and southeast UK, is likely. This is, by the way, the GFS ensemble for the next 30 days, and you can see here the strong ridge extending from Atlantic across the UK and Ireland, negative over Greenland. That is a fairly positive NAO look. Precipitation-wise, GFS ensemble is firm on showing a highly anomalous dry signal across the UK and Ireland, and then really much of Central and Southern Europe as well. In terms of the GFS extended temperature profile, this is an interesting one. It's actually showing cooler than average, especially across Scotland and Northern England, Northern Ireland as well. Central areas of Europe cooler than average, France and Iberia warmer than average, albeit slightly. Is this going to upload? Let me just check here. And then I'll come with the verdict, rightly or wrongly. Hopefully this graphic will load for me. Be able to show you what I want to show. So this is the ECM weeklies, by the way, for the next 30 days. It takes us out to Thursday the 20th of August. Again, region extending from UK, Ireland eastwards here. Precipitation anomaly slightly different to the GFS in terms of having a slightly wetter than average signal across the northwest of the UK, drier England and Wales and Ireland, and then that very dry signal the further south you go. You notice here a wet signal across Scandinavia. In terms of temperature anomalies, very slightly cooler than average across the heart of Scotland, if you notice, again warmer than average, England, Wales, southern portions of Ireland. Overall, while I believe origin will build quite firmly over the UK between the 10th and the 20th of August, so that's an important time frame, 10th and the 20th, I think the pressure will build over the UK and Ireland. It will be interesting to see, 1, what develops within the tropical Atlantic, 2, how strong, and 3, where these features go if they form as this could drive the North Atlantic Euro pattern mid and particularly late months. So the tropics could be important. If the MJO takes the lid off the Atlantic, we see systems develop, which is marginal at the moment. We've got a lot of dry, dusty air and shear in the tropical and subtropical Atlantic. That is an inhibiting factor in terms of development. But if the MJO can take the lid off, we can see a little bit less dry air, less in the way of shear, systems developing. The question will be, how strong do they get and where do they go? That could be important in terms of driving the mid and late August pattern for North Atlantic and Europe here. I believe the tropics could play a crucial role later. It depends upon conducive tropical environment becomes. As for now, lots of dusty air and shear, despite the MJO somewhat removing the lid in the upper levels. And I've also put a question mark over the possibility of trophiness returning 20th onwards here. So the verdict, and I'm struggling with this one for the north of the UK and Ireland, average to above average for both temperature and rainfall. The temperature one's really niggling me here because it could actually be a slightly colder than average August if the GFS ensemble and the ECMWF are correct. But I'm going to go with average to above average for both precip and temp for northern portions of Ireland and Northern Ireland and the northern UK. Warmer and drier for England and Wales, so we continue on from where we've left off in June and July. And a warmer, drier west-southwest Europe, cooler and wetter east and north Europe. So that is the thinking for summer's final month, meteorologically speaking anyway. So an average to above average both in temperature and rainfall for Northern Ireland and Ireland, as well as the UK. Warmer, drier England and Wales. Warmer, drier west-southwest Europe, cooler and wetter north and east of Europe here. So like I say, this is an article freely available for you to check out, so do so. I'll leave a link in the description below, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.